Hello, everyone. I'm here with Neil Thornton, and there he is, Neil Thornton. And
Everybody,
we are absolutely delighted to have Neil with us today as an interview with Neil in talking about changes that are coming in business and because of COVID-19. I think we're all running out of adjectives, Neil. I used to say in these unprecedented times, in these strange, whoever thought we'd be here times, but now I just say COVID-19 because we're pretty much running out of things to describe this. But anyway, so how are you today?
it's good. I'm telling you, everybody's got like Zoom fatigue, and there's been so much change so fast. And, I can remember back in 2008, in the last recession, this is like the recession on steroids. Like this is honestly the companies right now that are regrouping with their culture. They're, we'll talk about it today, but creating a bigger picture than this. Understanding that we're humans as well. I think it's really important to get human again in all of this. Being in a virtual world where we're technically isolated, the video component adds a certain amount of connection to this, but we're also missing that face to face. And quite frankly, going out grocery shopping, you got to have like martial arts training. Going up and down aisles. Like, it's crazy. People are going crazy, right? So I don't know, like business is kind of a bit of sanity out there, like, our businesses are what's keeping us on track. And some companies in this are doing very well. A friend of mine owns a online book company and a distribution company. They're up over 400%.
Excellent.
And then, also in our call together with CFFB, everybody was talking about the breakfast. Did you have the breakfast? That was really, really cool. And then I ended up reaching out to Steph from Little Mushroom Catering and say, hey, Steph, what's with the breakfast? And she was talking about how the CFFB was supportive of this program, but we all still want to have that experience of eating together. And then, of course, Steph is gracious enough to support frontline workers. So there's an example of a company that, quite frankly, has been really, really impacted by the pandemic and what's going on. And you have a leader like Steph who is saying that, this is our reality, but we're going to continue to brand ourselves as leaders in the community, which I really respect. It takes a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah, it is for sure. It's funny. I was talking with an agency in New Brunswick today, and they have done their first on-site facilitation. And everybody is in a plexiglass kind of cove, right? Everybody has their plexiglass around the boardroom table. So that's where this might be going. Anyway,
we call them penalty boxes.
Yeah.
5 minutes for roughing.
Exactly.
It's this week I was on with a financial institution across Canada, very well known, rhymes with Schmar BC. And they're really good people, and they wanted kind of advanced virtual skills. Like I wrote a report. I wanted to call it "Make sure your virtual meetings don't suck," but I thought I'd make it more corporate. And I wrote it, elevating your virtual meetings and looking at body language and nonverbal cues and standing versus sitting and kind of the higher end language patterns, vocabulary. It was really cool. Yeah, it's a great experience.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we'll get started with some questions here. Why is change considered difficult in business? Do people resist change?
Well, it's misdemeanor I'm sorry, it's the wrong word, but it's not really true actually. For a number of years in business circles, we were always talking about, do people resist change? Do people resist change? I'll often do it in a workshop, put your hands if you feel that people resist change, and people's hands go up, and then I go, actually, it's not really true. The fact is, people are going to resist the perception of change that's perceived as forced on them. And what that means for business is, as a business leader, driving the change, which all of us have to do, regardless of the pandemic or not, regardless of what's going on, we have to lead change. And I'll reference Tom Peters in his book, Reimagine, when he said, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevancy even less. And So today it's about remaining relevant, but it's driving change within teams. And there's a great book by Simon Sinek, and it's called Start with Why. And to me, that's how we drive changes. We have to explain the why. Here's why the change is happening. Here's what's happening with our market, our customers, globally. And this change is requesting us to be better and faster. So you drive the why and then the how. Now, there's a test in any business room that if you try and drive the how, then the best meeting will happen in the hallway after the meeting. Because people will be out there going, I don't know why we're doing this. I don't have a relationship to this. Oh, it's them. Like the worst word in business is the word they or them. And when you get that conversation about, oh, they just want to do this, that's a killer for change. It's people understanding the why. And then once they have a relationship to it, then they can support the how. And when people have a contribution to the why and the how, then they'll support it. People will support something they help create. And that's why great organizations now are very flat. They're driving change at all levels. It's part of their vision, right?
Excellent. What advice can be offered to best lead change? What elements are required?
Well, I'll go back to my previous comment of driving change at all levels. So you have a member, Flanagan Food Services. They're wonderful people. And Dan Flanagan, a family business, and his daughter Sarah is part of the business, and he has a great corporate team. After our last workshop with CFFB, Dan and his team came together at Binghamton's actually, and we talked about change. We talked about the need for why the food service business at that time was changing. But everybody in the organization came together and they were part of an interactive workshop about ways in which we could drive the change. But it anchored on vision. And so there's four things that need to happen to drive change. And if any one of these is missing, it will always fail. So number one is a vision of where we're going. Now, when I say vision, I don't mean a vague platitude that's wallpaper in the lobby or a banner on your website that says, we'll exceed clients' expectations by offering the highest level of service and quality. Like that's barf. That's wordsmithing. Real vision is a picture of where we're all driving to. And real vision isn't new. By the end of the 1960s, we'll put a man on the moon. That was JFK. Every household will own an automobile, Henry Ford. I Have a Dream is Martin Luther King, of course. Every household will own a personal computer, Bill Gates. And of course, all of human knowledge will be found on a handheld device. That was Steve Jobs. Those are visions. So those are a picture of where we're going. And great companies have that inspiring vision that every person contributes to. Number one is vision. Number two is a team. So no executive, no individual will ever drive change on their own. The ego will always get in the way. And Eckhart Tolle says in The Power of Now, ego and awareness cannot coexist. So the team is in a back room with lab coats and tape on their glasses, and they're crazies, but they're driving the vision. They are driving the change. The third thing, which is typically missing, Janice, is a sense of urgency. So we go away on these retreats and we do visioning boards and some fluffy motivational facilitators up there, and you're putting sticky notes all over. But then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, what do we do with this? And it doesn't become urgent, because what happens is the vision is attached to your current reality by an elastic, and tension seeks resolution. When you leave those workshops, you go back to how many emails did I miss? You go back to that current reality. So a lot of companies struggle with the urgency to hit the vision. Well, today, with even this conversation in the pandemic, urgency's in your face. And those that are going to succeed are the ones that see how urgent this really is, and they drive change quickly. The fourth element is every single person in your organization understands the economic reality of really what's going on. That if we don't change, here's what's at risk. If we do change and we create a new market potential, here's what's in it for all of us. And it's called the WIFM. Remember that? The what's in it for me. But every person in the organization understands that our clients are changing, our markets are changing, our business is changing, Our learning is changing. And if our people aren't learning faster than the change in the marketplace or driving towards our vision, we're in a lot of trouble. And the one member that you have that I like how they do this is Hefner Lexus Toyota, because you've got a great family there, multi-generational, but they're seeing how the automotive business is changing, and they're driving culture and change. And I'll go back to the word culture, because your culture will eat your strategy for breakfast. That's Peter Drucker. We know that, right? But a lot of companies, they don't spend time on their culture. So they go away on these strategic planning retreats. They come back with some 40-page document. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. The best companies have a one-page strategic plan. Everybody sees it. There's 3 to 5 performance indicators that we're all driving towards. And culture and communications is number 1 on those strategic plans. That's how people feel engaged. So to me, those are the elements of driving change. If you're missing any one of those, you will always fail. You can tell your culture, you can tell your vision by what you hear in your organization. So I mentioned that I'm a linguistic. So I study body language, I study language patterns in business. Tomorrow, go to your office, and what do you hear? Because if you're really willing to listen, you'll hear from the past or from the future. And most people speak from what they already know. That's why innovation's hard, because we speak from that's just like, or we tried that before, or have you thought about this? And we judge what we say. Real vision is about what would be possible if. Have we ever thought about this without any restrictions? Those are visionary companies. This is what's required now in this pandemic is vision that's pulling us forward. You also have to have trust. In Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, the very first dysfunction is an absence of trust. Don't assume you have trust in the organization. Stop the organization, stop the bus, and say, do we all understand what's expected of each other? Do we all understand that we trust each other? Be very careful with that. Now with business, you're moving into what we call succession. And succession isn't just family business. I know this is the CFFB, but succession is also your managers, your stakeholders, your contributors, your front line. And I appreciate what Brian Hawk and Brent and the team at BDO are doing, because they're seeing the importance of succession now, because the clock doesn't stop here. The clock is not stopping through all of this, and succession is always ongoing. Ask yourself, do you have a learning organization? Are your people learning and building their skill sets for this, what we call it, the new business reality, right? Pivoting or whatever you want to call it. But those are good concepts. I think that's something important to consider.
That's great, Neil. And a lot of, what you're saying is, I want to say common sense, if you think about it, but we lose it. I'm so inspired right now. Yeah. And then you get into the weeds again and you kind of lose those messages. So it's like a habit. You have to keep repeating it. You have to keep looking at it.
But Janice, this is what you and I do. Like, we are external to companies. That's why consultants still have value, executive coaches still have value, because you and I will walk into an organization, you'll talk to your members, and you're listening for what's possible. You're listening from nothing. You're listening from invention. The longer you've worked for an organization, the thicker that automatic listening becomes. So you walk in and you say, well, have you ever thought about this? And the whole room goes, no, we never thought about that. Janice, how did you know that? I said, well, I was just listening on behalf of your number one customer. But most people listen to justify themselves or to be right or wrong, to look good, whatever it might be. I see it when I study body language. I see it all the time, because 85% of all communications is nonverbal. I'm on a virtual call this week with 40 people. I read everybody's body language. I had a gentleman like this in the meeting, and he was doing this. And I said, David, do you have something you want to say? And he's from Montreal. And he had incredible insights. He goes, Neil, how'd you know? I said, well, you had the thinking pose. And so being aware of all the nonverbals that are going on in a room, I think, is advanced management. This is what most executives want now, is I want to know the impact and presence that I have in a room.
Mm-hmm.
I know my business. I know how to buy and sell steel. I want to know if my people are comfortable or uncomfortable, or if what I'm saying is resonating. When you're even on a call like this, are you speaking to people's eyes or people's foreheads? It's a great concept. Are people's shoulders dropped? Are people sitting back and splaying? There's all kinds of things you can watch for that are portraying their attitude towards what's being said. That's fun, hey? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
We're weirdos. We're weirdos.
Well, this afternoon I had a president of an ad agency, and his dog was up on the desk and his cats were out. I couldn't even get to see him. I saw a lot of the animals though. So. Anyway, what importance? We've already talked about this, but let's just revisit it. What importance does culture play, and how does it fit with the strategic plan? So you've talked about that, right? Culture eats the strategic strat plan for breakfast.
Yeah, the one part of culture that I love drive. So there's vision, which is, hey, the picture of where we're going. There's the mission, which is why we do what we do. One of the underestimated pieces of culture and strategic planning are values. Sometimes they're called core values. You can look at Jim Collins' early work in his book, Built to Last. But core values are a list of internal values and communications and integrity that dictate every conversation we have. And I like working with companies that are very serious about their core values. So this is how you can drive it. You ask everyone in your company, let's say this one question. Everyone in this company answers the question, as it relates to working on this team, this is what's important to me. This is what I value the most. And you're going to hear work ethic, integrity, humor, flexibility, recognition, number one human need, recognition. And so you collect them, and then you create a series of value statements. Now, most of those end up, on a lobby wall. Great companies will do this. Let's say, Janice, you and I are in a team, and we have another 8 or 9 people in the room. I would say, hey, gang, does everybody agree on the importance of these core values and us living them in the workplace? Because that's usually the missing, is how do we live and measure these? And everybody nods, everybody nods. Says, okay, we're going to meet again in a week. Okay, everybody, you got this? We all agree to these. We're going to meet again in a week. Awesome. When you walk in the room next week, please be prepared. Please be prepared to have your name pulled from a hat. At that time, when your name is pulled, we will ask you to stand in front of your colleagues and give a specific incident, including a date and a time, of when you've lived one or a number of our core values or our vision. Have a great week, everyone. Watch how people leave the meeting room. Because they know that the best training happens between training sessions. The best visioning happens during the meetings. It's the space between the notes that makes the music, right? Mm. So what happens now is people leave the meeting knowing that they could be called upon at any time with examples. The first few meetings are uncomfortable because people might not be prepared. Watch though, because the companies that stay focused on it, you're going to have people show up and say, Janice, would you mind picking my name? Because I noticed Margaret doing something yesterday that's incredible. And we need to kind of pull these reports together. We publicize them. We share them through the whole company. So everyone in the company knows the importance of living these. Watch what it does to your culture. Everything changes. That's a great way of building culture.
Well, that's an awesome idea. I love that. It's really
it happens every level of the organization. So this isn't owned by human resources. Mm-hmm. This is not a human resources thing. For many companies, human resources is sometimes called human remains. That is not modern human resources. Modern human resources today understand that the future of your business relies on its people and its communications. And they're the ones that are saying, all of our managers are driving these values. And the human resources are real coaches, which is what they should be, mm-hmm. not administrators. Sorry, any HR people on the call? Hi, HR. I love you, HR people. I'm going to get calls. I'm going to get calls. Oh, man.
All right. So, describe what clear expectations mean. How best can we establish those today? Because I think that's with everything swirling around. Expectations need to be clear. They really do. And even being clear and saying, look, it's changing all the time. But just to
Yeah.
be clear, it's
Yeah.
changing all the time.
Number one, please don't assume that you understand what you expect of each other. For the last 8 years, I've been meeting with managers and employees and asking them to articulate what they feel they expect of each other. I have never had a match,
Oh, really?
ever. From a
Interesting.
three-person greenhouse to a $7.4 billion corporate organization, I've never had a match of expectations. So imagine you and I are in a meeting and we talk, we leave the room and we're unclear of our expectations. We're rowing in different directions. And that's a gap. That's a waste of a gap. One of the things that I believe in is stopping the bus and really on an ongoing basis, you articulate what's expected of one another. I'll give you an example. I teach at Niagara College and I teach a marketing class. And every term in January, beginning of the winter term, I'll walk into a room, say 80 students. And the first thing I say is, you all have an A. Congratulations. And this concept is from the book, The Art of Possibility by Ben Zander. And I said, everybody, please write me a letter. Dear Neil, here's how I earned my A in the course. And they write out on the letter is April 25th, the last day of the term. So what they're doing is they're creating visions for themselves of what they want to become and contribute to throughout the whole class. So throughout the term, there's no grading. I don't grade students. I get rid of performance appraisals. I always joke, grab your spouse tonight, sit them down and say, honey, do you have a moment? I want to talk about your performance over the last year. Let me know how that goes. But it's the same thing for employees, the same thing for students. Students hate to be graded. Employees hate to be judged. They hate performance appraisals. They'd rather go to a tax seminar than a performance appraisal. But in Niagara College, what I do is at the end of the term, the students grade themselves. They actually grade themselves on what they feel they contributed toward their A's. How many students a term do you honestly think assign themselves high marks?
I wouldn't say a lot, no.
Very, 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 if any, very few. I usually raise the marks in the term. So to me, this is education.
Yeah.
So now you translate this to the business environment where you say, give yourself an A. I often refer to 90-day plans. Every person in your company should have a 90-day learning plan with personal and professional development goals. And your role as a manager is you coach them to hit the expectations that they create. Those are expectations. Stop judging people, right? And then like for sales and business development people, your expectations right now should be building and strengthening your online brand, your LinkedIn profile, your content creation, because it's all digital now. And the salespeople and business development and sales managers who resist that will suddenly find themselves wonderfully equipped for a world that no longer exists. So those are expectations of each other. And when those expectations are clear, people will amaze you with what they're able to do. It's trust. Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
I love the students coming in and everybody gets an A. Like, dude, where were you when I was going to school?
You should see the first class. You all have an A. They're like, oh, what's going on? Like, because they're not used to this.
Yeah.
But as soon as they realize that this is a business class, I'm going to treat you like business adults. Now, Janice, picture this. I've got some students who aren't the best students. And they'll miss classes and they'll miss assignments. And I see them in the hallway. All I have to do is say, how are you living your A? You watch. Like, I could punch them. You don't punch students, by the way, but I could punch them and it wouldn't hurt as much as, how are you living your A? Yeah. And it's because halfway through the term, I'll often ask them, write me a letter of how you're living your A. And you'd be amazed what a lot of students say. Because they're hard on themselves. But they make self-corrections and they graduate that class with incredible marks because I'm teaching them the real skills of business. How to communicate, how to sell themselves, how to walk into a room. Those are business skills. That's what all businesses want, is I want people that can transfer confidence. We're all in sales, by the way. Every single one of them. You're watching this right now. We're all in sales, because the definition of sales is the transference of confidence. That's power. Yeah.
Very good. So just getting it down to Center for Family Business, what is the impact of different generations working together?
Oh my gosh. Well, the boomers aren't retiring. They can't afford to. Right? So they're staying in the working world longer. And you know, the boomers were born after World War II. We all know that is one of the greatest spikes in generational history. They're working side by side with the Gen X's. And then below them are the millennials. Most of the millennials are now running the companies. And you have this new generation coming in. And the new generation coming in right now are called Gen Zs. They're called the tablet generation. If you thought millennials had the attention spans of squirrels on crack, wait until you meet these Gen Zs. Their world is different. They're wired. They're online. Everything is quick. They get this technology. Friend of mine, a colleague who owns a firm, and he interviewed a Gen Z, and the interview went fantastic. Gen Z was 20 years old, college graduate, fantastic, had all the skill sets. And my colleague said, "That's great. We'll see you Monday at 9 o'clock." And the Gen Z said, "Yeah, I'll be here around 10." And so my colleague said, "I got a better idea. How about we don't see you at all?" And he called me, and he was very proud of this interaction. I said, "So what are you going to do about that?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you now have a Gen Z out there with about 100,000 people on their social media lines talking about how old-fashioned your company is." And he kept reiterating how it was so important to start at 9 o'clock. I said, "This Gen Z will work till 3 in the morning. They don't do 9 o'clock. So call them back and see if you can get them, rehire them in your organization, because look at this whole world now where we're virtual, working from home." And he got mad at me because he's like, you don't understand. We work 9 to 5. I said, "That's the old model. That's an old model." So now the generations working together, the pieces that still are relevant for you, I brought a prop for you today. Here's an element that's still important. This is the book. Now, the cover of the book today looks like this. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The reason why I brought this out is this is one of the first published copies of How to Win Friends and Influence People from 1935. Wow. This is timeless. This is the most downloaded book on the internet today. So what is still timeless with generations is the way in which we recognize each other, the way in which we communicate honestly, sincerely, seeing things from other people's points of view, being good listeners. So the human part of business isn't new. The generations are new. The technology is new, but there are some things that are still fundamental. Now, you and I both love the family business model of multi-generations, and we know the percentages of success from one generation to the other. The generations that succeed are the ones who are transparent with communications and expectations. The learning is expected. The family members have earned the right throughout the organization to be positioned for future growth, but they know how to communicate. They know how to lead, right? They know how to step up. They can build rapport and trust. They gain cooperation. My definition of leadership today is what people say about you when you're not in the room. That's what people are working on now, is their brand. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You think about the team at Hefner.
Yeah.
Right. The name Hefner is synonymous with, quality, and they struggle like every other business, of course. How do we find and keep good people? But really, it's the name and the brand does all the heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brand is still so important. Never discount it. It's personal business, very much so. And I had a chat with Flanagan's as well. We did an online interview. And one of the things is that Flanagan's they cultivated that brand for 40 years. So when it comes to today, and, it's challenging, they have that brand that people know and know that they're authentic. So it's not just for short term, but long term, and to keep true to it. And that's one of the best pieces of advice you can always give anybody.
The thing I appreciate about Flanagan's is we've talked to them. As a manager, you possess 3 skills. You have management skills, you have leadership skills, and you have coaching skills. Each one of those are completely different disciplines, and their managers work on all 3. And coaching is a psychology. So you can't just say, I'm a coach. Well, do you have certification for that? No, you're a manager, right? But real coaches inspire change through great questioning, and leaders motivate teams of people, and managers get processes done. Great companies see those 3 skill sets, and they're always working on all 3. One of my top programs is Coach the Coach. To this day, is I've been coaching for 20 years. Like, I don't talk about it because no one really knows what coaching is. All these life coaches running around, but real business coaching is about advancing faster to your goals than you will on your own. And it's someone like yourself, Janice, where you represent an association where your heart is helping companies grow. So you'll ask tough questions. Is this what you do? Right. A lot of people can't do that amongst colleagues. They can't. I have a lot of executives just want to talk. They just want someone that will listen to them and not tell them what to do. Most people know what they need to do. They're just not doing it. So, good, solid coaching is, hey, get yourself out of the way and let's get done what we need to get done for the business.
Excellent. That's great. Well, I'm out of questions, unfortunately, because I'd love to listen to you all day.
Oh, yeah, you're awesome. You're awesome.
But is there any last words you have for our CFFB family before we say goodbye?
Yeah. You think about up there, I say up there because I'm from Niagara. This is water, but it's usually wine. But I'd say up in KW, Guelph, Cambridge, you're growing exponentially. Like, I think it's not just KW, but a lot of places in Ontario, the changes are exponential. Make sure that your team is not learning incrementally in a time of exponential change. We have to create very strong commitments that learning is part of our culture. We're a learning organization, and people aren't afraid of learning. They see the value of it. In this pandemic, the very first thing that I did was I called Brian Huck. I called the BDO team and I said, we need to create a succession planning program. And they're fantastic. They're like, this is great. Neil, what would you contribute? I'm the human side of it. And they're the more physical, technical side of it. And then the report on how to run virtual meetings. And so what happens is the companies that pivot the quickest are the ones who are winning right now. And it's in our face. Like, it really is. To have an association like yours, to me, the value of it, because even after our original call, I had a number of people contact me who were part of that call but considering joining. And I said, one of the values of joining the CFFB is you have access to the mastermind, which is from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, 1935, right? And the mastermind is surrounding yourself with people who may have gone through 2008 and have experience. They have advice, they're mentors, they're things you can do. That's the value of your association, is you've got some great groups of companies that have gone through this. This is the first time this has happened. It won't be the last time. But you think about, well, what are some of your members doing to accelerate growth? And in the absence of that, you're left to figure it out on your own. And I don't like the chances of that. I like being around people who are smarter than me, because they challenge you. That would be my closing remarks for you guys. I think that's the value of the CFFB. I mention it to you. I think the value of the CFFB should be in Niagara as well, if I can speak candidly. We used to have a couple of groups here, but they slowly disappeared. There's a lot of family business here, even in Niagara, that right now are trying to figure this out. And so I appreciate the work that you're doing.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. And we got your comment, and definitely are thinking about it. It's a dream. It would be a dream to take this concept, and the trick is to take this brand and be able to duplicate it because of the essence of it is just so personal and it's supportive. It's in the mandate, supporting, educating, and energizing. And it's really things that you need to take and duplicate, and they're hard ones, right? They're very,
Yeah.
it's subjective. It's not like it's 20 outputs of widgets. It is something that is very different to everybody.
But your members are telling great stories. So when I walked into the first CFFB meeting in Binghamton's, it was a couple of years ago, there's almost 200 people there for a lunch.
Yeah.
Like 200, like what?
Yeah.
And it was buzzing. And of course, Binghamton's for the food. Food was fantastic, but there were a lot of people there, and we had a lot of fun. And the thing about the CFFB is you ask a company to share their story. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating. Oh,
I love those stories. I really look forward to them.
Yeah, they're really cool. Yeah,
they are very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to stop our recording and just stay on the line there, Neil, for a second. But I'm going to stop it, and we will have this distributed to all of our CFFB members. So.
Bye, CFFB members. You're awesome.
All right. Take care.